everybody, it's Lon.TV, and the folks from Synology let us borrow their DS415Play to take a look at. And if you saw my video on the 415 Plus, this will look very similar on the outside to you. It's pretty much the same casing and the same 4-drive interface here, very similar in appearance, except the fact this is a little bit different in what its capabilities are and what it's got under the hood for a processor. So this is about half the RAM that the 415 Plus has. So the Play has 1 gig of RAM, the Plus has 2 gigs. This has a slower dual-core Atom processor compared to the much faster quad-core Atom processor in the Plus. Yet, the Play can do 1080p real-time video encoding to a mobile device or to an Apple TV or to a Chromecast, where the Plus can only do that at 720p. And that was confusing to me and a lot of viewers who wrote in to say, well, the Plus is such a faster processor, why can't it do what the Play does? And the answer is that Synology is really aiming these devices at different markets. This is the one they're aiming to the high end of the consumer market, the media streamers, the home media streamers, and maybe the cloud streamers to some degree. And the Plus is going towards the small business market, which is going to focus more on high-speed file transfers and perhaps some encryption stuff that this doesn't have the ability to do. So that was kind of where they jutted off. So even though the Plus can do everything this can and more, they just chose to limit its functionality to more enterprise tasks and kind of let this one be the drive to kind of carry forward on the media stuff. So very confusing, but what we are going to do in this video, because they were kind enough to let us borrow this for a couple days, is look at what is unique to the Play, specifically how it can transfer video at 1080p, and we'll look at how it performs with an iPad, and then look at the processor load that brings when we're doing it. So we'll step through that, and we'll also do some benchmarks. I did want to cover some of the exterior hardware differences, because on the front it looks pretty much the same. You've got a USB port in the front here, but on the back is where things are a little bit different. So the Plus has 2 gigabit Ethernet jacks that you can aggregate to get faster speeds. This one has a single gigabit Ethernet jack, and we'll test the performance of that gigabit performance in a minute or two. We also have 2 USB 2.0 ports and 2 USB 3.0 ports. Now, missing on the Play that the Plus has is an eSATA port for connecting SATA drives directly to the device. This lacks that, but of course you can always get a USB 3 to SATA adapter and pretty much get the same speed out of it. And of course those USB ports are used for connecting backup drives, external drives for additional storage, moving files around, that sort of thing. You can just plug things directly into this and move them around. It's got a very robust operating system, which I've covered in other videos I've done on the Synology drive, so check those out. We'll go into detail on that. What we're going to focus on today is specifically its benchmarking and its video performance in its built-in Video Station app, and then we're also going to look at Plex. The performance is excellent. We're getting around 100 megabytes per second or so of writes and about the same in reads. So we're hitting, I saw it go as high as about 108 megabytes in both directions. So we're looking at about 864 megabits. So we're pretty much getting close to capping out that gigabit connection that we have. There's always some overhead involved with an Ethernet connection, so you'll never see the full 1,000 megabits when you're doing something like this. But this is great performance, pretty much on par with what we saw with the Plus. Now, granted, we're using a single computer here, but still, this is pretty indicative of the amount of horsepower this has available to serve files. So now we're going to take a look at some of those video serving capabilities, and we do that through the Video Station app. And this works on just about any of the Synology devices. It works within their web interface. Really slick web interface. I'm continually impressed by what they've done here. And what you can do is log into your drive and then start to sort through all these videos. I'm going to do a follow-up video on how Video Station works probably in the next couple of days. So look out for that so you can see a little bit more about how you can organize video and sort things. But this is a file here that I shot with my iPhone, so I can hit the play button here and it will pull up my video that I recorded, and I can play it back in the browser, and even gives bookmarking options as well. So if I pause this and come back to it later, it will remember where I left off. So it's basically just kind of streaming a video like a YouTube video would. But what I could also do real quick here is stream it over my network to an Airplay device, namely like an Apple TV or something like that. Now what I've done on my Mac here is I've installed an Airplay server so we can see, kind of replicate that Airplay behavior. So I can just click on my MacBook Pro here and it will find my Mac and it will then start playing back. So as long as my Synology drive and my Airplay serving device, whether it's an Apple TV or this software here running, it will find that device on the network, and without having to use a mobile device at all, you can just go right through your web browser and toss video to your Apple TV right over your network. This also supports DLNA playback as well, so you could, if you have a DLNA receiving device, like an Xbox One I think supports it, you can push video right to it as well, like you would an Airplay device, again without having to use a mobile app. But there are mobile apps to do that as well, so we're going to take a look with my iPad here, and we're going to play back a BluRay MKV and see how that does. All right, I'm running out of room on my desk. We're going to do a couple of things right now. We're going to boot up the mobile app, the Video Station iPad app, and what we're going to do is first play this Star Trek Into Darkness MKV file. This is a Blu-ray backup from the movie that I bought. So this is the actual Blu-ray MKV high bitrate file that it's going to convert in real time to be able to play on my iPad. So we're going to hit the play button here, and while this is going, I'm also going to show you in the back there the CPU monitor of the device here, so we can see how the DS415Play is able to keep up while it's doing all of this transcoding. So we see the movie has started on my iPad. It seems to be running fairly nice. I'm going to pop up that CPU monitor so you can see what kind of load that is having on our computer. So I think, or on our DS14Play, so we're looking at about 27% CPU usage for this single movie file, so you can get a feel for how much you could probably support at once. I would imagine movies with lower bit rates, video files that aren't as hefty, will do better, so you might be able to serve more smaller files as you go. Now, the reason I have all this stuff on my desk is that I also have a Chromecast connected to my television here, and what we're going to do is stop this movie now, and so you can see it was playing back at a pretty decent frame rate. And I'm going to click done, and then I'm going to go into the upper right hand corner here and select my Chromecast. So I can also use the app to shoot it over to Airplay like we did with the web version, but I can also hit my Chromecast here, and it'll just take a second for it to connect, but you'll see now we have all of the Synology stuff on our Chromecast ready to go. So I'm just going to click the play button now on the iPad once again, and what it'll do now is actually toss it over to my Chromecast once I select all the features I want to have in the video. It also does the audio encoding too, so it was basically downgrading my surround sound file to stereo. So we'll let this run here, and now we're getting the movie on my TV screen. The CPU actually is far less CPU than it was before, so I'm not sure if maybe it's caching up or it had cached up part of that film there, but you can see it's running very nicely over the Chromecast. Now, in earlier testing, I was able to get the iPad to run pretty much flawlessly with that video being transcoded in real time. It's interesting, the Chromecast is not faring as well. As you can see, it started off okay, but I'm getting now a lot of stuttering. So we'll get some good frame rate, and then it'll stop, and then it'll pick up again, and then stop again. So I'm not sure if it's related to the amount of Wi-Fi bandwidth that we're receiving it onto the iPad and pushing it off to the Chromecast or what, but it doesn't seem to be working as well off the Chromecast as it was off the iPad. Now, one thing that doesn't work at all, at least for this kind of video, is Plex. So you'll see here, I took a video earlier where I tried to play back this very same MKV having this device do the transcoding, and it pretty much locked the CPU up at 100%, and nothing was displaying as I was running Plex on my iPad trying to get that video to convert. So I think they've done some optimizations with Video Station on here to allow it to play back smoothly, at least to my iOS devices and by Airplay by extension, but we're seeing Chromecast just not doing it for me at the moment, so we have to tweak it a little bit more. So that is the DS415Play and its video encoding capabilities. I think within a home, the need to have your network attached storage device also act as the encoding device or the transcoding device is not as important as it may have been a couple of years ago, because I know for me at least, I use a Roku 3 and I also use the WD-TV. I'm able to play back those high bitrate MKV backups directly over my network via DLNA without having to have any transcoding happening first. And I know a lot of you love Plex and use it for a whole bunch of different reasons, but I still think you probably need a separate PC to use it effectively. This can run Plex, I think, for lower bitrate files. It'll probably work okay, but I think this is really better as a storage device that your Plex server can connect to. That's how I do it. And although you have to have an extra PC running in the house, I think at the moment that's where we are at with all of the available technology. So that said, I think it's, if you had to choose between the Plus and the Play is slightly less expensive, and as we saw with its benchmarking, it's about the same rate of speed on a home network. If you're in an enterprise environment where you get a lot of people hitting the device all at once, You'll probably want maybe those extra bits of processor and memory that the Plus has available to you. But I think for most of us who are using this in a home environment, the Play is going to be more than adequate, really nicely performing device that will certainly nearly max out your gigabit bandwidth within the homes. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.